So hello to everybody. I'm Elisabetta Pasone. I'm a senior consultant here in an associate here in Considi, and I would like to welcome to our webinar, a series of webinars about innovation and fast development.
Before having a focus on the portfolio management, I would like to introduce this slide. This slide basically represents the three main processes of product development. We have the PDP, that is the product development planning. Then we have the new product development and the life cycle management. In the next webinar, so in the third webinar, we will focus our attention in the product development, in the new product development. So Valentina will present that part. But for today, we will focus on the PDP, so the first part of the funnel. As you can see, the PDP is composed like a sort of funnel. So there is an initial phase that is necessary in order to gather new opportunities and new ideas from the market. Then we have a second phase that we call consideration phase. And in this phase, the objective is basically to evaluate the different projects. And at the end, the basic objective is to create a plan, to create a portfolio. So before entering in detail in this funnel, I would like to present which are the main criticalities, the main issues that basically we figure out when we implement portfolio management to our client. Here there is a synthesis of the key issues that basically are four. So the lack of integration, the lack of visibility, then we have the absence of prioritization, and sometimes it happens that the process is not well structured. So let's start from the decision-making process. The portfolio management process is a process that supports the decision of the managers, because we give all the information related to the projects, information that are, for example, the NPV of the project, or the data related to the risk, the data related to the workload, in order to give all the information to the managers and give them the possibility to select the right projects to be brought into the portfolio. So the objective related to the decision-making process is also strictly correlated to the prioritization objective. So let's now focus on the workflow related to the portfolio management process. Here we have a sort of representation of what is the funnel, what is the workflow. As you can see in the upper side of the slide, we have represented the main phases of the portfolio management process. So we start with a phase called idea. We then go on with a phase called consideration. Then we have a prioritization phase. And at the end, we have the planning phase. Another key aspect that we have to mention when we speak about portfolio management is, of course, the bin system. A bin system is a method that is used in order to classify the projects, classify in terms of complexity. As you can see in the first matrix in the upper side of the slide, here there is an example of a way in which we can classify a project. Of course, the higher the bin, the higher will be the complexity. But which are the key parameters that influence the complexity of a project? Of course, the scope. So the higher the scope, the higher will be the bin and the complexity. And the other parameter is the methodology. So if we follow, for example, a common methodology, we will have a lower level of complexity. But if the methodology is different, for example, we have to work with a compressed time, of course, the complexity of the project increases. In the downside of the slide, we can see, for example, how we can translate this information, this bin number, into numbers that represent, for example, the duration of the project and the number of sprints that we have to perform in order to execute the project itself. The last slide is represented by some example of implementation of portfolio management that we have done to our clients. So the applications are related to different sectors, to different industry, that goes from automotive to the chemical industry, to the each view AC, to the fashion industry, and to the automation and digital transformation.
And just the next thing is the system. So you have project teams collaborating in virtual rooms. They can do that together in an at-a-what manner, anytime, anywhere, any device. But what matters as well is not just having efficient teams collaborating, is the whole system. So here we have an example of a network of iObeya rooms that are interconnected. And we here have an example of a bicycle maker, where you have different levels in the system. You have R&D and operations that are connected to the same project, that is an electric bike here, that is a project that is part of the project level, where you have other projects such as a carbon frame, a race e-bike, and a speed bike. On top of that, there is a room that is a portfolio room that manages all this. And on top of that, you have the CTO and the corporate level for the whole innovative activity of the company. So this is just the quick intro, and I'll hand it off to you, Silvia.
Thank you, Nick, for the introduction. So let's move to iObeya. And specifically, we will focus on the board related to the portfolio management process. I will start from this board that basically represents the slide that we have already seen, just to refresh your mind. So I want to focus on the main phases of the process. So the phase of idea, as you can see, then we have the phase of consideration, prioritization, and planning. This is just made in order to refresh you the structure and to show you how we manage those phases inside iObeya. So let's move to the first board. Here we have our portfolio funnel. So as you can see, we have the same phases that we have seen before in the slides. So we have the idea phase, the consideration, as you can see, the prioritization, planning, and the closed phase. So in this case, we used a Kanban board. The Kanban board is basically the best board that suits this kind of activities, because give the possibilities to manage the phases. iObeya has a great functionality that is related to the fact that we can manage and we can have information about the number of cards that we have in each phase. As you can see, in the upper side of the board, we have some indicators that give us the information about the number of cards that are present in each phase, but also about the limit. So it's a sort of counter. So let's start from the first phase, that is the phase of idea. We will start simulation. So as Nick made an example before, we will start from considering a company, for example, that is producing bikes and components for bikes. So let's start from the first phase. We will move to our first board, that is the one used in order to gather new ideas, new opportunities from the market and from the organization itself. So these activities, for example, can be performed in different ways. In some organizations use this board in a rolling way, and some other organizations use just when they want to, for example, perform a brainstorming activities with the key actor. In this case, we will try to perform and to use the main functionality of iObeya related to the brainstorming, and we'll try to perform these activities using that functionality. As you can see, here we have a graph. This graph is basically used in order to classify our projects. So we will use our tools that are here in the doc. We have standardized the tools, and we have created post-it that basically represent different type of project that we can have. So sustaining project, derivative, platform, and breakthrough. But which are the elements that give the classification of the project itself? We have mainly two axes in this matrix, so the product change that give information about the change that we perform in the new product that we want to bring in the market. So there could be minor changes, functionality change, next generation product, or we can, for example, develop a new core product. Then let's take our card. Okay. As you can see, all the cards are now positioned in the first phase. Of course, the objective of the idea phase is also to give more information about the idea. So, for example, we want to give some more details related to the description, related to the objectives, and so on. What we can do and what we have done is basically to relate the single card to a link that represents a standard Excel file that has already been structured in order to evaluate all the key information about the project itself. So here, for example, you can find the sheet related to the idea phase, and here there are all the information related to the project, the country, the market of reference, the sector, the description, the objective, and so on. So let's go back to iObeya. Let's suppose that in this case, there is a sponsor, so a key actor of the organization that's recognized value in this idea that is called new e-bike. The sponsor will take basically the card, so the idea, and will bring it into the consideration phase. Into this phase, the key objective, of course, is to have a deeper focus on the project itself and to evaluate all the key information that we have seen before in the slides. So we want to evaluate the financial data, the risk, the strategic fit, and the workload. We will perform it in our Excel that has already been standardized. So as you can see, we have a single file sheet for each parameter that we want to evaluate. For example, starting from the NPV, we have evaluated it, inserting data like, for example, volumes, prices, costs, and investment. The Excel, of course, evaluates the data and give us, as a result, the NPV value and the bin related to the NPV. In this case, for this company, for the parameters that we have set at the beginning, the NPV equal to 800,000 is a good NPV, so it's green. Then we have some information about the sensitivity analysis, and then we have, for example, as we said before, a sheet that gives us the possibility to evaluate the risk of the project. Risk that is classifying into market risk, technical risk, and life cycle risk. Also in this case, the output is essentially a value related to the global risk of the project. The last parameter that we evaluated is the one related to the workload. Here, as you can see, we input data related, for example, to the lead time of the project, so the duration, and also related to the workload of the project itself. Also in this case, we have, as a final output, a total value of the workload and a bin classification that give information about the complexity of this key parameter. So let's go back to iObeya. What we do here is basically that in an iterative way, when all the information are ready, we use the sticker that we have customized in order to give, in a visual way, the information related to the key parameters that we have evaluated. So I remember that the NPV was a green value, so it was a good value. I will put the sticker on the card. Then I will take the risk, that was orange, so a medium level of risk. I will take the strategic fit, that was green. And by the end, the workload, that was also in this case, an orange value. So thanks to these stickers, we have information, a direct information of the evaluation of the key parameters. Moreover, we can put inside the card the key parameter related to the timing. So we have evaluated them, and we know that the lead time of this project is 12 months, and the number of sprints is equal to 6. And as you can see, if I zoom, we can see all the information on our cards.